The NBA considered many plans to stop tanking, but now settled on a proposal for next year's draft. Goes to work immediately. Called the 3-2-1 system. Complicated as hell, but I'm gonna break it down nice and simple. So if you read the new rules, it's hard to understand. Like, the teams with the 3 worst records fall into the relegation zone, receive only 2 lottery balls each. The 7 remaining teams that miss the postseason entirely receive 3 lottery balls. The 9 and 10 seeds receive 2, and the loser of the 7-8 play-in game gets 1. In total, 37 lottery balls assigned to 16 teams. What? If you're like me, you barely followed any of that crap. So to make it real simple, here's the breakdown. Look at this, a gigantic change to how the draft will work. Everyone basically has the same odds to get the number 1 pick, except for the 3 worst teams. Don't want to be in that bottom 3 anymore. Goes from a 14% chance to 5.4%. That changes everything. Also, I feel bad for a team like the Rockets, who has all these other teams' picks they thought were going to be juicy, like the Nets and the Suns. Not anymore. But will this stop tanking? Well, it turns out this is just one of the new rules. The other rules add a poison cherry on top for the tankers. And one of them is no more top 5 picks in 3 consecutive drafts. And it turns out it's a pretty common way to build a contender. The Spurs would not exist as we know them. Pistons, Cavs, or Rockets. Team building about to get a whole lot different, and there are even more rules that we need to get to. But the main criticism is, well, how are bad teams supposed to improve now? Especially in a small market. But, you know, I should have seen this Rockets-Lakers beatdown coming. One of my best moments of the regular season was watching that matchup in person, pretty much the same result, okay? If nothing else, just see KD and Bron guard each other up close. I will never forget that. Which is why I want to give the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek, a huge shout out. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. MLB is back, NBA in the playoffs, and right now you can get World Cup tickets on SeatGeek. But let's check out maybe another NBA playoff game coming to Houston, where I live. Game 6 if necessary. So either the Rockets would extend the series or the Lakers would close it out. So you know it's gonna be a little pricey, okay? Looks like you can get lower bowl for around in the 300s. But, you can get in the building for $192, not bad. And SeatGeek's got your back, each ticket rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. Look for green dots, green means good, red means bad, plus every ticket backed by their buyer guarantee. And of course, I've got a code for you guys. Use my code AMHOOPS2026 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That is 10% off any tickets with code AMHOOPS2026. Yeah, but it was either that or have tankers ruin the sport. We will look back on this year as the tank year in the NBA, when tanking was as bad as it ever got. And the worst tank game of all time was Jazz Grizzlies. April 10th, both teams needed an L because a Grizz win meant a 7% drop in their odds at a top 4 pick. Jazz win, a potential 10% drop, a must-lose game. The Grizz lineup were guys they literally signed off the street. 4 players on a 10-day, 1 guy on a 2-way. Randos up and down, no offense. So first quarter, Derek Whitehead scored 16 points, gets benched, not to return until the Grizz were down 50 in the 4th. Memphis played just 6 players, and the guy off the bench was named Rupert. They found a Rupert to play in an NBA game. Jemai Myshak had a quadruple-double with turnovers and was a -46. The exact number the Grizz lost by because man played all 48 minutes. It was the first game in history with 3 triple-doubles, 2 off the bench. We will never see this level of tanking again. But that's the norm across Adam Silver's NBA. On any given night, you would have a whole slate of games where we already knew the outcome. Like April 3rd, for example, one of the final Fridays, 7 of 9 games had tankers, so you knew who was gonna win. Why watch the regular season? Yeah, 7 of those games, 30-point blowouts. Average winner won by over 24 points, the largest differential on a packed game night in NBA history. Embarrassing. And every night, you guys like, oh, Adam Silver's ruining the NBA. So he puts in these rules and people are like, oh, he's gonna ruin the NBA. You'll have to do something. And the only risk is that Adam Silver is overcorrecting for one terrible year. Tanking's been a problem. This was by far the worst season ever. but it's because of the deep generational 2026 draft. 3+ guys who could change your franchise. But ain't nobody tanking for the Zachary Riza-Shea draft, no offense. And next year's draft's supposed to suck too. So is he overcorrecting with these new odds? But the new odds are just the beginning. The other rules include the bottom 3 teams can now fall way down the draft. So currently a top pick can only fall to number 5. Like, remember when the Pistons got unlucky and they fell to 5 like 3 times in their rebuild? Well, now they could fall all the way to 12th. So you can have a terrible season with almost nothing to show for it, not even a top 10 pick. Also, teams not allowed to pick number 1 in back-to-back years. Teams not allowed to pick in the top 5 3 years in a row. Teams cannot trade picks protected 12 to 15 anymore, and the commissioner can punish tankers more severely. Okay, but will it work? I mean, the NBA has tried all sorts of rule changes that failed to stop tanking. Why would this work? Well, first off, you do have to admit it will discourage tanking more than the old system. Obviously, you don't want to be bottom 3, and there's no difference in being 4 through 10. But the first problem is this basically nukes the play-in game. Look again at the odds. So if you lose the 7-8 play-in, you now get into the lottery with a chance at number 1. That wasn't the case before. Or you can get your butt kicked in the playoffs by the 1 or 2 seed. And now, if you lose the 9-10 games, you double your odds in the lottery. Why would you want to win the 9-10 and get into the 7-8, right? Because if you lose, you go from a 2.7% chance at number 1 to 5.4. It's almost double. Taking the play-in is real valuable now. You might just get rid of the play-in tournament, to be honest. But the safeguard against everything, really, is these new commissioner's power to punish. So Silver now has the option to reduce a team's lottery odds and or modify their draft position, which means he can be like, oh, you tanked the play-in? Yeah, now you're picking number 16 no matter what. The problem with that, though, is if you do that one time, teams are gonna be all over you every other time. It's even borderline, right? Like, can you imagine if Adam Silver did that to the Hornets, but didn't do it with the Lakers? It would be a disaster. And that kind of already happened. Like, the Jazz got a $500,000 fine this year for tanking when they benched starters. And Silver was like, you know, overt behavior like that prioritizes draft position over winning undermines the foundation of the NBA competition. We'll respond accordingly to any further actions. Except he didn't. Literally the next 2 months, other teams were doing what the Jazz did left and right, and he didn't find any of them because everyone was doing it. Now, owners will vote on this proposal May 28. Report says it has a really good chance of going through. But I don't honestly think it's going to stop tanking. Been part of the NBA for now 42 years. The first example was 1984 when the Rockets intentionally lost a game at the end of the season to get the number 1 pick. They took Hakeem Olajuwon, 84 draft, greatest player in team history. And after that, the NBA then put in the draft lottery, but it didn't stop tanking because it works. Like, the Knicks were bad for Patrick Ewing. Spurs tank 1 year for Tim Duncan. Cavaliers, LeBron James. T-Wolves, Anthony Edwards. But it is still a gamble, right? Like, the Sixers tanked for Markelle Fultz. In fact, their entire The Process era, they never even got to a finals. Or Cavaliers bad, they got Anthony Bennett. But overall, all the recent good young teams have tanked to get to where they are today, including the Thunder and the Spurs. So as long as there is a draft at all with odds, you will see teams trying to game the system for those odds. And yeah, the system is different now, so tanking will just look different. But maybe that's the best Adam Silver could do, so we never see a tanking year like this again. But speaking of the Rockets who started all this tanking mess, and speaking of a mess, their series against the LA Lakers completely exposed in the most public way how toxic the Kevin Durant situation actually got.